Welcome to the Healthy Lifestyle Podcast, brought to you by Telehealth FX, your source for online GLP-1 weight loss and testosterone replacement therapy services. Visit telehealthfx.com to get medically guided access to weight loss peptides like semaglutide and tirzepatide delivered right to your home. That's telehealthfx.com. Now, here's your hosts.
Okay, I have to start with a number that stopped me in my tracks. One weight loss medication class has generated over 300,000 searches a month for one keyword alone. That's not curiosity. That's people standing in their kitchen at 11 at night Googling medicine for weight loss because they are done guessing.
And I bet almost everyone listening right now has either tried one of these medications, knows someone who has, or has strong opinions about them from a 5-second clip they saw online. There is so much noise around this topic right now.
So much noise. And that's exactly why we're doing this episode. Today we're talking about GLP-1 weight loss medications, what they actually do in your body, what the research really shows, the myths that keep getting repeated, and the questions you should be asking before you ever consider this route.
I want to be really clear up front. This episode is educational. It is not medical advice, and we are not telling anyone to start or stop any medication. This is a conversation to help you walk into a doctor's office with better questions, not a replacement for that doctor.
Exactly. So let's start with why this matters right now. These medications have gone from a niche diabetes treatment to one of the most talked about topics in health practically overnight. And because the demand exploded so fast, the information around them exploded even faster. And a lot of it is coming from people who've never opened a research paper in their life.
Right. There was actually a study that looked at how these medications get discussed on social media, and it found something pretty telling. The reliability of the health information from everyday users and influencers was significantly lower than the information coming from actual healthcare professionals. And there was basically no correlation between how popular a video was and how accurate it was.
Which means the loudest voice in your feed is not necessarily the most trustworthy one. That's true for basically everything online, but it's especially true here because we're talking about a medication, not a fad diet.
So let's get into the actual science. What is a GLP-1 medication? In plain English, GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1, which is a hormone your gut naturally makes after you eat. These medications mimic that hormone. They were originally developed for type 2 diabetes because they help the body regulate blood sugar.
And somewhere along the way, doctors and researchers noticed a side effect that turned into the headline. People on these medications were also losing significant weight. That happens because the medication slows down digestion, so food stays in your stomach longer, and it acts on appetite signals in the brain, so people feel fuller and think about food less.
It's not a stimulant. It's not tricking your metabolism into some crazy state. It's working with signals your body already uses, just turning up the volume on them.
In terms of what the research shows, there have been large randomized controlled trials, which is the gold standard of medical research, looking at these medications specifically for weight management. Across that research, participants who took the medication alongside lifestyle changes saw meaningfully more weight loss on average than people who made lifestyle changes alone.
Key phrase there, alongside lifestyle changes. None of the major trials tested the medication in a vacuum. Every single one paired it with some level of nutrition and activity counseling.
And that's a detail that gets left out constantly. Also worth saying, individual results vary a lot. Some people lose a significant amount of weight, some people lose a moderate amount, and a small percentage don't respond much at all. This isn't a guaranteed formula, it's a tool that works differently from body to body.
Okay, let's bust some myths because there are a lot floating around.
Myth number 1, it's the easy way out. I really don't love this one. People say this like the medication does all the work while you sit on the couch. In reality, most people on these medications are still adjusting their eating patterns, dealing with side effects, and making real behavior changes. It's a tool, not a magic wand, and it definitely doesn't erase the effort.
Myth number 2, you'll gain everything back the second you stop. This is more nuanced than a flat yes or no. Weight regain after stopping is a real and well-documented pattern for many people because the underlying appetite and metabolic factors that led to weight gain in the first place often haven't changed. But that's actually an argument for having a real plan with your doctor about duration and what happens after, not a reason to panic or avoid the conversation entirely.
Myth number 3, it replaces diet and exercise. We touched on this already, but it's worth repeating because it's probably the most common myth. Every major trial paired the medication.
Today's episode is brought to you by Telehealth FX, your source for online GLP-1 weight loss and testosterone replacement therapy services. Visit telehealthfx.com to get medically guided access to weight loss peptides like semaglutide and tirzepatide delivered right to your home. That's telehealthfx.com. Now back to the show.
With lifestyle support. Protein intake and strength training in particular seem to matter a lot for preserving muscle while losing weight on these medications.
Myth number 4. It's only for people who have a lot of weight to lose. Candidacy for these medications is a conversation between a person and their doctor based on their full health picture, not a number on a scale that we're going to define for you in a podcast.
And myth number 5, it's unsafe or experimental. The FDA-approved versions of these medications have been studied extensively and have years of clinical data behind them. That said, like any medication, they come with potential side effects, most commonly gastrointestinal ones like nausea. And there are certain health histories where a doctor would advise caution or avoid them altogether. Safety isn't a yes or no, it's a conversation based on your specific history.
Let's talk about who should be especially cautious here, or at least have a very thorough conversation with their doctor first. That includes people with a personal or family history of certain thyroid cancers, people with a history of pancreatitis, anyone who is pregnant or breastfeeding, and people with a history of disordered eating, since appetite-suppressing medications can interact with that in complicated ways.
None of that means these groups can never be candidates. It just means the conversation needs to be more detailed, and it absolutely needs to happen with a licensed provider who knows your full history, not a comment section.
Which brings us to practical application. If someone's considering this route, what does a smart first step look like?
Start with a real conversation with a doctor or a licensed medical provider, ideally one who specializes in weight management or metabolic health. Come with questions. What would we track along the way? What side effects should I expect and when should I call you? What's the plan for nutrition and movement alongside this? And what does long-term maintenance look like, not just the first few months?
And on the nutrition side, one thing that comes up again and again in the research and from providers is protein intake and resistance training. Because appetite drops so much on these medications, people can end up under-eating overall. And if protein intake is too low and there's no strength training happening, a good chunk of the weight loss can be muscle, not just fat.
That's such an important point. Losing weight isn't automatically the same as losing fat in a healthy way. The composition of what you're losing matters for long-term strength, metabolism, and how you feel day to day.
Let's talk about common mistakes, because we see the same handful over and over.
Mistake 1, sourcing medication from unregulated online sellers to save money or skip the wait. This has become a real problem. There have been documented cases of people getting seriously ill from products that weren't what they claimed to be, including one widely reported case where a woman ended up needing a liver transplant evaluation after using a compounded product that wasn't properly regulated.
That's terrifying. And it's exactly why the source matters as much as the decision itself. A prescription through a licensed provider filled at a legitimate pharmacy is a completely different risk profile than something bought off a social media ad with no medical evaluation involved.
Mistake 2, stopping abruptly with no plan. If someone decides this medication isn't right for them long-term, that's a completely valid choice, but it should be a conversation with the prescribing doctor, not a cold stop, because of how appetite and other factors can shift.
Mistake 3, treating it as a standalone fix and skipping the lifestyle side entirely. We keep coming back to this because it keeps showing up in the research. The people who do best long-term are the ones using the medication as one part of a bigger plan, not the entire plan.
And mistake 4, comparing your experience to someone else's transformation video online. Bodies respond differently, timelines are different, side effects are different. Comparing yourself to a stranger's edited highlight reel is a recipe for feeling like you're failing when you're not.
This is a great moment to bring up something we say on pretty much every episode. What works for one person may not work for another, and that's especially true here. Genetics, other health conditions, how your body responds to the medication, your support system, all of it plays a role.
Okay, let's picture this playing out for a couple of real scenarios. Think about a busy parent who's tried multiple diets over the years, always loses a little weight, always gains it back once life gets chaotic again. For someone like that, a conversation about GLP-1 medications with their doctor isn't about taking a shortcut. It's about asking whether a tool exists that could work alongside everything else they're already trying.
Or think about someone who's a few months in, feeling really good about their progress, and starts wondering if they even need to keep prioritizing protein and movement since the medication is doing so much of the appetite work. That's exactly the moment to double down on those habits, not drop them, because that's what protects muscle and sets up long-term success.
Let's bring it back around and recap the big 3 takeaways from today. Number 1, GLP-1 medications are a legitimate, well-studied tool, but they work best as part of a bigger plan that includes nutrition and movement, not as a replacement for it.
Number 2, myths like it's the easy way out or you'll definitely gain it all back oversimplify a genuinely nuanced picture, and the real answers depend on your individual situation and plan with your doctor.
And number 3, where you get this medication matters just as much as whether you use it. A licensed provider and a legitimate pharmacy protect you in ways that unregulated online sellers simply cannot.
So here's your one action step for this week. If you've been curious about this topic for yourself, write down 3 specific questions you'd want to ask a doctor about it. And if a doctor's visit isn't something you have scheduled soon, that's your nudge to book one, even just to have the conversation and get real answers instead of more scrolling.
We would genuinely love to hear from you on this one. Drop a comment with a question you still have or a myth you've heard that we didn't cover today. If someone in your life has been quietly wondering about this topic, this is a good episode to send their way.
And if you're new here, hit subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode. We've got more science-backed, judgment-free topics coming your way.
One more time, quick reminder, this episode is for educational purposes only, it's not medical advice, and any decisions about medications should be made with a licensed healthcare provider who knows your full health history.
Thanks for spending this time with us. Small, informed steps really do add up to big results. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to visit our sponsor, Telehealth FX, your source for online GLP-1 weight loss and testosterone replacement therapy services. Go to telehealthfx.com to get medically guided access to weight loss peptides like semaglutide and tirzepatide delivered right to your home. That's TelehealthFX.com. See you next time.